Hey guys, this is Cry with Deliberate Wactus doing another review. We're doing something a little bit different today. We're not doing a specific video so much as a specific fighter who has sent a bunch of different stuff that he'd like kind of looked over. And he's got some tournament footage, some sparring footage, some comparison stuff from um, previous years that we're going to take a look at and just kind of see, maybe what he's doing well and what he's changed over time. So, right off the bat, the first thing he said specifically, he wants to see some feedback regarding his fights in this video. So, let's just hop right into it. We're going to be following Bjorn here with the 6 shield and hat. Dude is out of Nebraska. He's a member of the Wayfinders with Warlord Tisco, and is a phenomenal fighter and likely on that way himself. Right off the bat, we see him just starting out with some really solid, approaching footwork, just small little gathering steps and shuffles as his hand is moving and threatening. Um, let's see here. Very comfortable, very casual. It's interesting. Threaten low, go high. And it looks like maybe this other guy was posting. What do we got going on here? Okay, he loses the block strike trade just a little bit. Catches the stab in the chest. Yeah, that'll happen. Oh, I thought we were doing a longer bear pit. Okay, maybe the other people stepped out. All right, let's see what else happens here. How this evolves.
On camera, you animals.
All right, what do we see here? Well, just catches him a nice safe chop over the top when there's a kind of a lazy stab thrown in. And then just a lot of patience here, waiting for the other guy to get set up. Keeping the guard up, and then a dark side around top. Okay. Or around back, rather. Alright. Tries for the cheeky spin, doesn't quite get any real depth on it. Wins the little exchange there. So Bjorn's solid at throwing down that lane and like beating others at that trade. And of course, he kind of almost would be expected to be in this case, just because he has the more experience with fighting on the same lane. Everybody else is used to fighting crosshand, and he's got the hand-matched experience. Bjorn is also previously an RIT, I believe, so a lot of block strike and rogue theory background. So he's been expanding out and getting a little weirder and doing some stranger things lately. We're going to turn that down just a little bit. There we go. So it's a very, very casual setting. He goes for that spin again. I feel like here, if his opponent, yep, throws that wrap in because he's turning his hips real hard, and he's aligning almost like he's fighting somebody who's like, over this direction versus his opponent being here, and you can kind of see it with like the orientation of his foot and his toe. So I'm not sure what he's doing there. If he's like trying to set it up to bait for the spin a little better, but he gets caught on the side. I think he could do the setup for this a little better off of threatening the um, the sword side of his opponent more effectively or more consistently. Let's see here. We're going to skip ahead just a little bit because these gentlemen did not fully ask for anything. I just want to see if Bjorn hops back in here shortly. Still going, huh? Okay. And again, with a pretty casual setup, pretty casual spin, he's trying to bait something reachy. But I think for some of the things that he's trying to do, there might be a little bit of a lack of context, a little bit of a lack of things to build off of in this specific fight. And so he's getting into situations where he wants to do wide or weird things, but because he hasn't built an adequate threat in some ways that are safer, he's not quite able to make anything land. He's just kind of going off of weirdness factor, which sometimes works, but once they've adjusted to that, like the weirdness is its own context, right? Okay, so I think let's move on from this one. Overall, not bad. I think there's some good basic movement as far as like footwork goes, and some decent like lane control in some of these fights. But a lot of it is just trying to be, not just trying to be weird. A lot of it looks like he's focusing on just kind of being weird. So let's get into a tournament set between him and Warlord Ferrex. Okay. All right. So some testing, swiping at each other's swords. Really good movement here. Tries to punish the reach, doesn't quite catch it. Is doing some feinting from a generally safe position. What happens here? So one of the things that we can see him do throughout this fight is he's cheating his board over to help protect his sword side hip, just because he's fighting somebody hand matched who is pretty quick. Gets blocked out, catches the blocks appropriately, and then punishes the wild overreach in a really, really solid way. Good on you, Ben. Stop doing that. You know better. All right, so round 2. Safe testing shots. Controls the lane, keeps the sword in a safe way. Like, and this is solid stuff, right? Like, in this case, trying to out-weird Ferrex likely would not go particularly well, because Ferrex is very likely to just kind of throw a lot of shots. Maybe not a ton of variety, but he'll, as you can see here, he'll try to weird you out as well, and it doesn't pay off for him. Let's wind this back here where the contact was. So, I mean, it looks like Ferrex starts in for the stab, tries to roll out, and got chopped on the arm before he landed or made contact or anything like that. And what really worked for Bjorn here is that solid movement, the lane control, right? Because here, yeah, right there, right? Let's bring this down to half speed. Good stuff. Doing a little crouch, matching Ferrex's height, maybe overblocking a touch, but keeping himself generally kind of stable. I'd love to see. Now here's where his feet are squared. That might be really good. Wasn't sure that he got the hit at first, so Ferrex was able to get some time to back off and create distance. But this was a really solid set here, just because rather than doing the kind of things where he's getting more and more wide, he stayed tight, let Ferrex reach, and caught him in, basically faster, better shot choices. So overall, like, I know Bjorn has that background and he's really solid on it. I don't know if that's something that specifically he wants to focus on. I think he probably wants to branch away from that a little bit, but that it is a strong suit of his. Now here we've got cool. This is the sword and board pools from that same tournament as the one we just watched. And he just keeps the chops solid. He keeps himself safe here. Does a lot to stay tight and punish the overreaching there. I don't know a lot of these people. I think some of these players are a little newer, and not just in terms of like the amount of practice, but like, or the amount of like try hardness, but how many times they've actually been out to park. So I don't know. Rivermoor is a wild land with a lot of different people that have a lot of different experience. I think he got the double leg here, and they're figuring that out. Let's move on. Or, they let him continue. Oh, okay, nope. Called him out. Okay. And this is another one that I think might be newer. Yeah. Okay, so this person actually looks like they might have some idea on what is going on. And there's that spin that we saw Bjorn trying to throw previously in the first video, and that looks a little bit more. It's interesting because this is older, but it looks like he had a little bit more practice on that. Oh yeah, and just staying tight, shutting him down. Oop. Hard to tell because Dante steps right across at the same time, but by the sound of it, his first shot lands. So let's watch his body movement here, right? He's got a really nice set position as they're starting off. And we see the sword dip forward a little bit. And then almost like a stab threat. And here he's pretty, it looks pretty clearly like a cross to me. It looks like he probably threw a high cross, yep, for the shoulder. Blocked and got the block across as well. And I think both of these shots were potentially blocked. Oh no. It looks like that sword is actually behind Ferrex's shield here. So yeah, it went, instead of hitting on the outside, it looks like it went downward perhaps a little bit and got behind there, caught him in the body. So really good shot, great placement. And that's kind of the thing, when you have people who are really reachy, they're really wild, then a lot of the time you can see a lot of success just by staying. We're going to turn that down because there's all the sirens going off. You can find a lot of success just by staying, tight in your guard, staying safe. And what he's doing here, like that, right? That first, that little pump underneath the board for a dark side fake, and then falling through to a dark side. Oop, that is really hard to keep track of. That's giving me a headache. Skip ahead. Newer player. Oh yeah, Onway, one of his unit mates. And he keeps the chops tight. Now we're gonna wind this back just a little bit to see kind of what happened here. Okay. So they're both fighting pretty, what should I say? How do I put? Rather, I should say, okay, let's look at the stance specifically, right? So Onway fighting against Bjorn is fighting with his sword side back, kind of removing his hip a little bit from the fight, and potentially bringing his shoulder into it a little bit more. Bjorn, on the other hand, is fighting with his sword side forward and his shield brought down just a touch to kind of protect that. It's also perhaps a passive bait for the shield side shoulder. So he starts with that shield side, and they traded here. Shield arm and sword arm. Okay. They have a little bit of time to reset. They let him back into the ring. Brings back down to righty on righty. Yep, and just catches Onway reaching. Okay. So it looks like a lot of the time where Bjorn is the most successful has to do with the times where he is keeping everything tight and secure. So the real takeaway I'd say from this is just regardless of who you're fighting, right? I know that being in the Wayfinders, they tend to be a bit more about getting weird with their fights, going outside kind of the established expectation, doing things differently and kind of strangely. But as we can see here, a lot of Bjorn's success does come from doing what he already knows and is fundamental and does very well, which is keeping his shield tight, keeping his shots quick chops, safe, not overreaching too much, and doing so from a range where he's not immediately likely to be threatened again from it. So the real takeaways I'd say here, just keep in mind that what you're doing is going to be, your opponents should always be learning. If you are able to take advantage of your opponent's willingness to reach, willingness to kind of go outside of what is considered, quote unquote, good fundamental style, then you're going to see a lot of success. On the other hand, don't let that limit you. And honestly, Bjorn, you can use a lot of what you do well, being the ability to kind of keep everything safe and tight, and turn that into some real success with threatening in these tight, safe ways that other people are not able to punish you for. And then when they react very strongly, because you've already caught them a bunch in these ways, that's when you get to start getting weird. That's when you get to start going around and throwing money or dark side on your hand-matched opponents. So I know I didn't get through everything, but the video is already at about 17 or 18 minutes, so we're going to call it here. This was an interesting look through a couple of different sets. Really appreciate you sending this in. If anybody else would like to have themselves reviewed, please don't hesitate to hop on the Discord, post some video, and we'll take a look at it. This is Korai with Deliberate Wactus. Until next time.